The man stood in the glowing marble lobby with tired eyes and a spine that carried more weight than any backpack ever could, and when he softly said he only wanted to see his balance, the sound of laughter cut through the air sharper than glass. It was the kind of laugh that came from comfort, from never knowing what it felt like to count coins before buying bread, from never praying that a card reader would not flash red in front of strangers. He did not flinch, because humiliation had long ago become familiar, but inside him something tightened, because that balance was not just a number, it was his last thread of hope for his child waiting at home. Before the story goes deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us what humanity really looks like, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel name. Your support keeps these stories alive. He was not always this man. Once, he had dreams that felt reachable, hands that felt strong, and a life that did not revolve around survival. Years ago, he had a small home filled with laughter, a wife who believed in him more than he believed in himself, and a baby boy whose tiny fingers wrapped around his thumb as if promising that everything would be okay. Life did not break all at once, it chipped away slowly. First came the factory shutdown, then the months of temporary work, then the illness that took his wife far earlier than anyone was ready for. Grief emptied him in ways hunger never could, but he did not have the luxury of falling apart, because there was a child who still needed breakfast, warmth, and a reason to smile. Being a single father reshaped his entire existence. Every morning began before sunrise, not because he was ambitious, but because the world demanded it. He packed lunches with whatever he could afford, tied shoelaces with hands already aching from yesterday's labor, and learned how to braid hair from online videos so his son would not feel different at school events. At night, when the apartment grew quiet, the loneliness would creep in, heavy and uninvited. He would sit at the small table, bills spread like accusations, calculating and recalculating, hoping numbers would magically change if he stared long enough. The day he walked into that bank, he had not come to beg or complain. He had come because his card had been declining for groceries, and he needed to know exactly how close he was to the edge. The building itself felt like another world, polished floors reflecting chandeliers, soft music floating through the air as if stress did not exist here. His clothes were clean but worn, his shoes scuffed from years of walking instead of driving. He stood in line, rehearsing calmness, reminding himself that dignity was something no one could take unless he handed it over. When his turn came, the woman behind the counter barely looked at him at first. Her posture was confident, her expression sharp, shaped by years of authority and wealth. She was known in the city as a self-made millionaire, someone who had risen fast and never forgot it. To her, numbers were power, and power was everything. When he explained that he only wanted to check his balance, there was an unmistakable flicker of amusement. In her world, balance checks were for people who worried, and worrying was for people who failed. The laugh that followed did not echo loudly, but it did not need to. It was enough that others nearby noticed. It was enough that his face warmed with embarrassment. Yet he did not argue, did not raise his voice, did not walk away. He simply waited, because walking away would not feed his child, and pride did not keep the lights on. His eyes drifted to the floor as she typed, and in that quiet moment, memories rushed in. His son's face the night before, pretending not to be hungry so his father could eat. The school notice about a trip he could not afford. The promise he whispered every night that tomorrow would be better. As the screen loaded, something shifted. The woman's smile faded, replaced by confusion. She leaned in closer, checking the name, then the numbers, then the account history. Her fingers paused above the keyboard, no longer playful, no longer careless. What stared back at her did not match the story she had already written about the man standing in front of her. The balance was not empty. It was not even low. It was staggering. The money had not appeared overnight. It was the result of a decision made years earlier, during a moment of despair that could have gone very differently. After his wife's passing, when the world felt unbearable, he had sold the last valuable thing he owned, a piece of land inherited from his father. He could have used the money to ease his pain temporarily, but instead, he placed it into a long-term investment he barely understood, guided by an old friend who believed in patience more than luck. He forgot about it as survival took over, assuming it would amount to nothing. Life had trained him not to expect miracles. But time has a way of rewarding quiet endurance. That investment grew slowly, steadily, unnoticed, while he focused on raising a good human being instead of chasing wealth. He never checked it because he never believed it mattered. The account became a forgotten corner of his life, overshadowed by school runs, night shifts, and scraped knees. Until that day. The woman's laughter died completely as realization settled in. The man she had dismissed was not poor in the way she understood poverty. He was rich in restraint, in patience, in responsibility. The screen reflected numbers that demanded respect, not mockery. For the first time in years, she felt something unfamiliar tighten in her chest. It was not fear of losing money, but fear of misjudging a human being. The man sensed the change before he saw it. The air felt different, heavier, quieter. When she finally looked up at him, her eyes no longer skimmed past him. They stopped, truly stopped, as if seeing him for the first time. He did not smile, did not feel triumphant. Relief washed over him slowly, mixed with sadness for all the moments he had been invisible, for all the assumptions that had followed him like a shadow. Walking out of the bank, the sunlight felt warmer than before. He sat on a bench outside, hands trembling slightly, not from weakness, but from release. The weight he had carried for years loosened its grip. He thought of his son, of the life that could now breathe a little easier. Not luxury, not excess, but security. He could fix the heater before winter. He could say yes to a school trip. He could sleep without fear of eviction notices. But what mattered most was not the money. It was the confirmation that his quiet sacrifices had not been meaningless. That the nights of exhaustion, the swallowed pride, the endless trying had led somewhere. He did not rush to change his life overnight. He went home, cooked dinner, helped with homework, and listened to his son talk about his day with the same attention as always. Stability, he knew, was built slowly, just like everything else that lasted. Days later, the woman from the bank found herself thinking about him more than she expected. His calm, his humility, his lack of bitterness unsettled her more than anger ever could. She had built her empire on confidence and speed, but she realized she had lost something along the way. Compassion. The encounter became a quiet turning point. She began to treat people differently, to listen longer, to judge less quickly. One screen had shown her numbers, but another had shown her herself. The man never told his son about the laughter, about the moment of judgment. Children deserved light, not the weight of adult cruelty. Instead, he taught him values through actions. He volunteered at school events. He helped neighbors when he could. He showed that success did not have to make someone hard. Money, to him, became a tool, not an identity. Years passed, and the boy grew into a young man who knew his father not as a victim, but as a hero who never gave up. The story of the bank was shared only once, late at night, as a lesson, not a complaint. A reminder that dignity is quiet, and resilience often goes unnoticed until it surprises everyone. If this story is touching something inside you right now, if it reminds you of struggles you have faced or people you love, please take a moment near the end of this video to like it, share it, and subscribe to channel name. Your engagement helps bring more stories like this to people who need them. And before the ending, here is a special request for you. Please comment below with one word that represents hope to you, because someone reading it might need that word today. The man who only wanted to see his balance never needed the world's applause. He needed one chance to breathe, one chance to prove that quiet endurance has value. And somewhere, someone watching this story may realize that they are closer to their own turning point than they think. Sometimes, the screen changes not just numbers, but hearts.